I've been, for several years, people have been bugging me how to do hand wraps. Before we start, don't adjust your video camera. My hair is pink. Okay. I'm going to use the universal way that we do hand wraps here at the gym, and we've been doing this for years, and we've had the best results with this particular hand wrap. Coming around, I've learned several dozen ways of wrapping the hands. In general, we tend to use this pattern. When we use this pattern, we use a 180-inch elastic hand wrap, and calling a shout out to Rev Gear because I personally like their hand wraps the best, or something similar to that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and jump in. I'm going to show you how we wrap and exactly the different things I need you guys to pay attention to when you are wrapping your hands. Now, when you wrap your hands, this has already been wrapped down, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take one hand wrap and show you how I roll this up. Most people I know won't roll theirs up, and I don't understand this. It makes for a much easier way of actually undoing your wraps. But as you can see, I've rolled up or basically undid this wrap, and the way I always tell everybody to do it is you take the Velcro and you roll into the Velcro. So here, and you roll this up. Now, people swear to me that it's okay if they don't roll it up like this, but then they spend all day untangling it and such like that. I'm a Virgo, so therefore we have to do things my way while we're here. But anyway, you would roll it up and it eventually will turn out like this. Now, the basic pattern, the reason why I like this, the Rev Gear ones and ones that are very similar to it, is that it says this side down. Even if you mess this up in the beginning, it's really not that big of a deal, and I'll explain later why. We normally start off at the thumb. You want to go ahead and zoom in on this? Okay, I'm going to try to keep my hand the same way as much as I can. We start in across the hand, back of the wrist, and the magic number is going to be 2. We wrap around once, we wrap around twice. Okay, and then we go around the palm. Now, when I do this, okay, I'm doing this very, very loose. The hand wrap is being used as a sock at this time. Okay, so we don't want it too tight, or else we'll cut off the circulation in our hands. Then when I get around the thumb, I'm going to do what we call ring around the rosy. We go around the thumb, then around the wrist, and then around the thumb again, and then around the wrist, and I should end up at the crook of my wrist where the thumb is. Okay, then I'm going to go through the pinky, okay, and I do a small tug, but I do not, whatever you do, pull it tight, because that's going to separate my knuckles. Just do a small tug so it's tight, around the wrist, and through the next fingers, and around the wrist, and then through the next finger, and then everybody says around the wrist. I go, no, not around the wrist. Now, this is about the time where you actually want it to become tight. So, as I go around, I'm going to create an X. I'm going to turn my wrist so that you can see this. I'm going to make an X, and this is going to go tight, tight. Okay, not tight enough so that I cut off circulation. And as you can see, I actually made an X in the back of my hand. I'll repeat again. Okay, now at this particular point, I'll have some excess depending on how much you use. Now I have a big hand, so I won't have much excess, but basically you finish up any way you feel like. For me, because I have a big hand, I finish. Bump, and as you can see, because of the way I rolled it up, there's the Velcro and we're ready to go. Okay, now through the fingers are designed only for one thing. Make sure that the hand wrap doesn't fall apart and fall down. Okay, so that's why you do not pull tight, but we go through the fingers. Some people will tell you not to go through the fingers, and what they really mean is that when you go through the fingers, don't pull tight. There's nothing really wrong with going through the fingers. This is the one that most people find universally comfortable. It supports the thumb, it supports the fingers, it supports the hand, and the hand actually wraps just like a sock, and as you can see, supports the wrist. Okay, now what we're going to do is I'm going to unwrap this, make it fall apart. I'm going to show you a heavy hitting version of this, where okay, so now coming back, some people say, well, I want something that's going to protect my knuckles a little bit more. I'm like, okay, get a better glove, but some people like doing this. So what I do is I go ahead and I take my fingers and I wrap maybe a total of 4 or 5 times. You have to experiment with your hand to figure out what this is. I'm going to go ahead and just do 4 times for argument's sake. Okay. So what happens is I do this and I expand out and I have a small little padding just like this, and I'm going to end up putting that padding across my knuckles. Okay. When I do this, this is a little bit precarious. Okay. I'm going to wrap it once around my hand once I do this. So don't worry about this. This takes a little balancing act here. Make sure it's across. Use my thumb. There we go. Okay. So this padding, I'm going to do it one more time, goes across my hand. Now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go around the wrist. Okay, I'm going to immediately start like from the previous hand wrap through the fingers. Okay, then around the wrist, and then through the fingers. Okay, then around the wrist, and I get lower every single time around the next finger. Now, this is where it gets interesting. I come here, and we do a little loop around the thumb. And we do the same thing around the thumb. And then what I want to do is, now that I got the wrist and hand secured, is I want to finish up around my hand so that I finish right here. And then what happens is that you have an extra padding for your knuckle. Okay?